Yadira Arroyo was a dedicated woman who really put her heart into helping those around her. She was a paramedic in Chicago, a role that needed a lot of commitment, bravery, and a strong wish to help others. However, on February 6, 2017, everything changed when her life was suddenly and tragically cut short. Yadira was a mother, a daughter, and a dedicated public servant. Her passing came as a shock to everyone who knew her, leaving them to face the heart-wrenching truth of losing someone who had made such a positive impact on so many lives. In this case, we're going to take a closer look at what happened leading up to Yadira's tragic passing. We'll also discuss the investigation that took place afterward and how her loss has affected the people who are still here with us. Yadira Arroyo was a notable figure whose story has captured attention. She is remembered for her contributions and the impact she made during her life. Many people are curious about her background and the events that shaped her legacy. Yadira Arroyo was someone truly special, not just your average individual. She was a woman who had a big heart for her family and truly cared about the people around her. She made the choice to spend her life helping to save others. Yadira, originally from Puerto Rico, made her way to Chicago, where she found a new home and raised her family. Yadira worked as a paramedic, which meant she was always right there in the thick of emergencies, ready to help anyone who needed it. She spent more than a decade working with the Chicago Fire Department and became a familiar and respected name in the medical community. Yadira was a loving mother to 5 children, and she truly had a special spot in her family's hearts. People who had the chance to work alongside her saw her as someone they could always count on. She was not just a paramedic. She was compassionate and incredibly skilled, truly making a positive impact on the lives of those she helped. People who knew Yadira often talked about how she was the kind of person who always went the extra mile. Whether she was taking care of a patient or lending a hand to her co-workers, she truly made a difference. But on that significant day in February, everything took a turn. On February 6, 2017, something significant happened that we refer to as the day of the incident. On the afternoon of February 6, 2017, everything started off just like any typical day. Yadira was on duty as a paramedic in Chicago, answering emergency calls and lending a hand to those who needed help. So, it was about 4:15 in the afternoon when Yadira and her partner found themselves responding to a medical emergency over on the west side of Chicago. What started off as just another regular call quickly turned into something much more serious and dangerous. As Yadira and her partner were going about their duties, a man approached them, clearly looking upset and in need of help. A man walked up to the ambulance, and just as Yadira and her partner were about to react, he unexpectedly hopped into the driver's seat of the vehicle. A man, who was later named Torian D. Harris, tried to take the ambulance while the paramedics were still inside it. What started out as a simple call for help has now become a risky and uncertain situation. As Harris sped away in the ambulance, Yadira and her partner found themselves in the middle of the chaos, doing everything they could to stop him. Harris, trying to get away, drove the ambulance wildly through the streets of Chicago, bumping into several cars along the way as he made his escape. Things got even more intense when Harris kept speeding down the road, and Yadira's partner attempted to calm him down. During all the confusion, Yadira was sadly hit and pulled along by the ambulance for a few feet before being tossed out of the vehicle. Yadira was taken to the hospital quickly, but unfortunately, they weren't able to save her. Unfortunately, her injuries were too severe, and she was declared dead soon after getting to the hospital. The situation that follows right after is quite significant. Yadira's passing really took everyone by surprise. Her family, friends, and co-workers are all feeling the impact deeply. She was someone who truly devoted herself to serving the public, always showing kindness to others, and she was also a caring and loving mother. Everyone who knew her really felt her loss in a big way. This wasn't just any crime. It was the tragic loss of a woman who dedicated her life to helping those around her. For those who worked with Yadira in the fire department, her passing served as a tough reminder of the risks that first responders encounter on a daily basis. When emergencies happen, it's usually paramedics, firefighters, and police officers who show up first. These brave individuals risk their own safety to lend a helping hand to those in need. Yadira really poured her heart into her work, dedicating herself to this important profession, and then, just like that, her life was cut short in a moment. After she passed away, folks started coming together to share memories and celebrate the life she had lived. People who worked with Yadira, as well as her friends and family, shared their thoughts about her wonderful character and the positive influence she had on everyone in her life. Yadira's story goes beyond just how she passed away. It's really about the life she lived, the people she supported, and the impact she had on the world around her. So, here we go. The investigation is kicking off, and it's time to dive in and see what we can uncover. Let's get started on this journey together. The day after Yadira passed away, the police started looking for the person who was responsible for it. The authorities quickly got to work, starting a thorough investigation to find Torian Harris, the person responsible for stealing the ambulance and leading to Yadira's tragic death. Harris, known for his past violent actions, quickly emerged as the main suspect in this situation. As the investigation into Yadira's death progressed, the police started to gather and connect the details surrounding the incident. Harris is a 25-year-old guy from Chicago, and he has a bit of a past with the law, having faced charges for theft and assault. That day, what he did really highlighted just how risky he could be. Harris really didn't plan on owning up to what he did. Instead of staying, he decided to run away, and by doing that, he ended up causing the death of an innocent person. The police were able to gather video footage from security cameras in the area, along with statements from people who saw what happened. This information really helped them put together a clear picture of the day's events. Before the incident happened, people noticed Harris in the area, and the evidence clearly showed that he had intentionally aimed for the ambulance. It turns out that Harris actually hopped into the ambulance with a plan to steal it, not caring at all about the two paramedics who were inside. Can you believe that? In the days that followed, the authorities really ramped up their search to find Harris. As word got around about Yadira's death, the city really started to feel tense, and finding Harris quickly became a top focus for the police. There were public calls for anyone who might know where Harris was to come forward, and soon enough, people from the community started sharing their tips. Torian Harris was arrested recently. The police were quick to catch up with Harris, and it didn't take much time at all. On February 9, 2017, just 3 days after Yadira passed away, Harris was taken into custody by Chicago police. Officers in a suburb located right outside the city. The search for the suspect was finally over, and Harris was arrested peacefully without any trouble. When he was arrested, Harris faced some serious charges, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, and carjacking. The police gathered enough evidence to demonstrate that Harris had deliberately taken the ambulance and was responsible for the death of Yadira Arroyo. It was obvious that Harris showed a complete lack of care for human life, and what he did that day was truly terrible. Harris's arrest marked a significant move towards achieving justice for Yadira and her family. Even though her passing had already taken a heavy emotional toll, the journey to find justice for Yadira was still ongoing. The trial of Torian Harris is an interesting case that has caught a lot of attention. It involves various legal aspects and personal stories that make it quite compelling. People are eager to learn more about what happened and the implications of the trial. It's a situation that raises many questions and discussions among those following it closely. As the months went by, the legal proceedings in the case started to come together. Torian Harris had several charges against him, and a lot of people were really interested in his trial. The case really stood out in the city back then. A lot of folks were eager to see justice done for the loss of someone who dedicated their life to serving the public. The prosecution presented a rather bleak view of Harris, characterizing him as someone who was both cold and calculating. They argued that he had deliberately stolen the ambulance, leading to Yadira's tragic death. They claimed that Harris didn't seem to care at all about the lives of the paramedics who were in the vehicle. The defense, however, aimed to portray Harris as a person who acted out of sheer desperation. Despite their efforts, the evidence clearly leaned in favor of the prosecution's argument. It was pretty obvious from Harris's criminal record and the video footage that he wasn't looking to help anyone out. His main focus seemed to be on getting away from the whole situation, no matter what happened next. Back in October 2017, Harris faced some serious charges and was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and carjacking. He received a life sentence in prison, and there's no chance for parole. Even though the sentence gave a feeling of closure, it was really hard to grasp just how deep the loss was for Yadira's family and those who cared about her. Let's talk about the impact of Yadira Arroyo's death. It's a topic that brings up a lot of emotions and thoughts. Her passing has affected many people, and it's important to understand the ripple effects it has created in the community and beyond. It's a situation that calls for reflection and conversation about the broader implications of such a loss. Yadira's passing really impacted everyone who had the chance to know her. Her kids had to navigate life without their mom, and the family had to figure out how to move forward without the woman who had always been their rock. Her co-workers in the fire department felt a deep sense of sadness over the passing of a talented paramedic and a dear friend. Chicago was left trying to come to terms with the heartbreaking loss of someone who dedicated her life to helping others. Yadira's story brings up some really important questions about how safe first responders actually are. Every single day, paramedics, firefighters, and police officers step up and put their lives at risk to lend a hand to those in need. Yadira's death really highlighted the risks that come with their work. The tragic loss of a paramedic in such a harsh and avoidable manner really opened the eyes of many who might not grasp the dangers that first responders face every day. Yadira's legacy isn't only about how she passed away. It really shows in how she lived her life. She was a woman with a big heart, always putting others first. As a mother, her love for her children was boundless, and as a paramedic, she dedicated herself completely to saving lives, working hard every day to make a difference. Even though she's not here anymore, her impact continues to shine through the amazing work she accomplished and the many lives she affected. To wrap things up, Yadira Arroyo's passing was a heartbreaking loss for her family, her co-workers, and the entire community. She was a woman who devoted her life to helping others, and sadly, her journey was abruptly ended by someone who showed no respect for human life. Even though this situation was really tragic, there was a sense of justice that emerged from it. Torian Harris faced the consequences of what he did, allowing Yadira's family to start their journey toward healing. Yadira will always be remembered for her bravery, her kindness, and her steadfast dedication to helping others and saving lives. People will always remember her for the love she shared and the many lives she touched as a paramedic. Her impact will stay with us forever. Yadira Arroyo might have left us earlier than we would have liked, but the mark she made on the world is something we will always remember. The heartbreaking situation involving the Correga family really impacted the tight-knit community of Kitsap County, Washington. It drew a lot of attention because of how shocking and brutal the events were. When 4 family members were murdered, it led to a big investigation. They found a lot of money and some links to organized crime, which made everything even more complicated. John Derek Johnny Correga, his wife Christale Lynn Correga, and 2 teenagers, Jonathan Felipe Higgins and Hunter Evan Shop, faced a tragic fate. They were caught up not only in a terrible act of violence, but also in a complicated situation involving drug trafficking, gang connections, and deep betrayal. The Correga family was really tight-knit, and they ran a business that everyone in Bremerton, Washington, knew about. It had become a true staple in the community. Johnny, who's 43, and Christale, at 37, have been happily married since 2009. Even though they each brought kids from earlier relationships into the mix, they've created a family that really seems to flourish in their community. Christale was the proud owner of the popular Java Hut and Juanito's Taco Shop, a Mexican restaurant that really drew in a lot of customers, helping to strengthen their role in the community. Jonathan and Hunter, who are both 16 years old, have always been good friends, even though they come from different backgrounds. They shared a home in Kitsap County, the place where everything would take a turn for the worse. At first glance, their home looked like any other, just a typical family dwelling. But if you looked a little closer, you'd see that Johnny was tangled up in some shady dealings. This hidden side was crucial to piecing together the chain of events that would ultimately bring about this family's tragic fate. It was the night of January 27, 2017, when something really unfortunate happened. So, Christale, Johnny, Hunter, and Jonathan were just hanging out at home when things started to get really intense. Christale had some friends over, and it felt like a pretty chill and innocent vibe in the air. But then, things got a bit intense when Johnny, after getting a phone call, made the choice to step out of the house. He mentioned to his family that he would be back in a little while, but he never came back inside. Instead, he ran into a mysterious person outside. A guest decided to see how Johnny was doing and happened to catch a chat among three guys in the garage. This was what led to the violence that came next. So, while Johnny was enjoying some time outside, the rest of the family, Christale, Hunter, and Jonathan, found themselves facing an unexpected attack. While all of this was happening, Hunter was inside the house. He quickly picked up the phone and called 911, urgently telling the dispatcher that his family had been shot. He called out for help, his voice filled with desperation, but then everything went quiet. A few minutes later, Hunter's life came to an end. He had a pillow pressed over his face before he was shot in the head. When the emergency responders got to the scene, they saw that the Correga house was on fire. The bodies of Christale, Hunter, and Jonathan were found without life. A truly shocking scene that would linger in the minds of both law enforcement and the local community for a long time. It looks like the fire was started on purpose, probably using some kind of accelerants to get rid of any evidence. Just 2 days after the tragic murders, they found Johnny's body in his charred Ford F-150 pickup truck, quite a distance away from where his family lived. So, there was this truck that got set on fire, and before the flames took over the whole thing, Johnny had already been shot. They discovered his body on a quiet road close to a tree farm in Mason County, Belfair. The investigators quickly pointed out that Johnny had visited the tree farm earlier that day, but interestingly, he didn't have his truck with him. A property caretaker found his body and mentioned that Johnny had been on the land earlier. However, he didn't say anything about the truck during that visit. Johnny's unfortunate end came about when those responsible decided to take his life without hesitation, ensuring that his death was a direct result of the violence they had already inflicted on his family. The first investigation was filled with a lot of confusion and uncertainty. As law enforcement started to look more closely into the case, they stumbled upon a possible connection between Johnny and the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. This club is quite infamous, known for being an outlaw motorcycle gang involved in various criminal activities, like drug trafficking. Johnny Correga was caught up in the business of smuggling cocaine from California, and he would then sell it to customers over in Washington. In the past, Johnny had sold cocaine to the Bandidos, and it quickly became obvious that being connected to the gang was putting him at risk. It all started when investigators found out that one of Johnny's close friends was involved in selling the cocaine that Johnny had been transporting. This revelation really opened up the whole situation surrounding Johnny's involvement in drug trafficking. So, this friend of Johnny decided to quit selling cocaine, and that's how Johnny ended up getting in touch with Robert Bobby Watson III. Bobby is a senior member of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club's Bremerton chapter. Bobby Watson, who has a reputation for being quite aggressive, ended up being a key player in the investigation. Bobby and Johnny got into a pretty intense argument after Johnny returned from his usual trip to California. It seems Bobby might have been following Johnny during one of those trips, which sparked the whole thing. This event set off a chain reaction that eventually resulted in the heartbreaking murders. A number of people were really important in the murders that took place. Robert Bobby Watson III, who serves as the vice president of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club's Bellingham chapter, was recognized as the key figure behind the killings. His ties to Johnny, whether on a personal level or related to criminal activities, gave him a reason for the murders. People started to wonder about Bobby Watson when some of his fellow Bandidos members shared that his stories didn't quite add up when they were asked about the killings. Even with all these inconsistencies, he still stayed a main suspect in the investigation. So, it turns out that Johnny Watson, who is Bobby's younger brother, got caught up in the whole situation too. He was involved in the crimes as well. Even though Johnny Watson wasn't actually a member of the Bandidos, people thought he might be involved because he hung out with them and was really close to his brother. Danny J. Kelly Jr. was an important figure in the crime, known as a hang-around associate of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. Kelly used to be really good friends with Johnny and even had the honor of being his best man at his first wedding. So, there was this disagreement between the two, and it all started with some accusations of theft. Because of that, Kelly ended up getting mixed up in the whole murder plot. Kelly really showed his connection to the Bandidos when investigators spotted him in their supporter gear. Plus, his potential membership got a big thumbs up thanks to his sponsorship from Bobby Watson. When the team focused on solving the Correga family murders kicked off their work, things began to fall into place bit by bit. The investigators went through all the evidence, talked to witnesses, and looked at the surveillance footage. Little by little, they started to figure out how Bobby Watson, Johnny Watson, and Danny Kelly were involved in the situation. The investigation uncovered a strong link between the victims and the perpetrators, tied to the risky realm of drug trafficking and organized crime. Police found more than $50,000 in cash tucked away in a strongbox at the Correga home, plus another $7,000 hidden in a money bag. The findings, along with the brutal nature of the murders, really highlighted just how deeply Johnny was involved in criminal activities. After several months of thorough investigation, 3 individuals, Robert Watson III, Johnny Watson, and Danny Kelly, were taken into custody and faced multiple felony charges. These charges include serious offenses like aggravated murder, arson, and burglary. They ended up being taken to the Kitsap County Jail, and now they have a long trial ahead of them. The 3 men said they weren't guilty of the charges, but honestly, the evidence stacked up against them was pretty hard to ignore. In April 2024, after a really intense trial, the 3 individuals involved were found guilty on 30 different charges. These included serious offenses like first-degree murder, premeditated murder, and arson. On May 7, 2024, they received a life sentence without the chance for parole. This decision wrapped up the legal process, but it didn't quite settle all the lingering questions about the murders that still remain. The heartbreaking loss of the Correga family really highlights just how dangerous organized crime, drug trafficking, and gang violence can be. It's a tough reality that many face. Their story unfolds with themes of betrayal and violence, but in the end, it leads to a sense of justice being served. The role of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club in the tragic murder of an innocent family really shows just how deeply these criminal groups can impact people and neighborhoods. It's a stark reminder of the chaos they can bring into the lives of so many. The Corregas were a family whose lives were tragically taken away, leaving everyone in the community feeling shocked and unable to believe that such senseless violence could happen. It's hard to wrap your head around the loss they experienced. The ongoing investigation into the Correga family murders really highlights the unsettling realities that can exist in our communities. It's a tough reminder that there are dangers we often don't see coming. While law enforcement is still navigating the aftermath of this case, there's a strong hope that the story of the Correga family will shine a light on the harsh realities of gang violence and drug trafficking. More than that, it's hoped that their experience will inspire real change in the ongoing fight against organized crime. The shocking murder of Morel A. Hernandez on December 5, 2021, really shook up the city of Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, and left a big impact on the film and television world. Morel was an incredibly talented makeup artist who worked on big television shows like Narcos, Mexico, Fear the Walking Dead, and Ingobernable. Sadly, she lost her life in a robbery and carjacking incident. Her death, which resulted from traumatic injuries, not only signified the end of a bright career, but also brought attention to the increasing issue of violent crime in Mexico, a country that is already dealing with deep-rooted violence and insecurity. The shocking details of the crime, where Morel was run over and dragged by her own vehicle, caught a lot of people's attention. It serves as a stark reminder of the risks that people encounter in some of the country's most unstable areas. This article is all about diving into her life story, looking at what happened around her tragic passing, and understanding the emotional impact it had on her family, friends, and colleagues. This also seeks to bring attention to the social and systemic problems that contribute to these senseless crimes. It shines a light on the increasing worry about the safety of people living in high-risk places like Tijuana. Morel A. Hernandez came into the world on July 4, 1975, in the sunny city of San Diego, California, USA. She spent her childhood in the lively border area of Southern California, where her family split their time between the United States and Mexico. Morel's love for the arts started when she was young, and as she dove into the exciting realms of cinema and television, her fascination with makeup and special effects blossomed even more. She really focused on improving her skills and started to gain recognition in the makeup world. Working on different film and TV projects gave her the chance to show off her creativity and talent in a big way. Hernandez's story is not only about his artistic dreams, but also about his incredible strength and determination to overcome challenges. Being the niece of Juan Manuel Hernandez Niebla, who serves on the National Public Security Council in Tijuana, she was quite familiar with the intricate workings of law enforcement and public safety in that area. Having her uncle working in the public sector made things a bit more complicated for her, particularly in a city that's been dealing with increasing violence and crime. Even with all the hurdles she faced, Morel's career really took off, and she became well known for her skills in makeup artistry. She spent several years building her career as a makeup artist, working on a variety of exciting projects in the entertainment world. Her portfolio featured some impressive credits like Narcos, Mexico from 2018, Fear the Walking Dead, which aired from 2016 to 2017, Ingobernable in 2017, and Tijuana in 2019. She also worked on various films and TV shows. Morel took on the role of a key makeup artist while also exploring different positions, helping to shape the look and feel of these productions and enhance their storytelling. She wasn't just skilled in makeup artistry, she also ventured into special effects. People started to recognize her for her talent in crafting realistic and striking transformations, whether it was for TV shows, movies, or commercials. Even though her work didn't always get the recognition it deserved, people in the industry were well aware of her dedication. She was known for being incredibly detail-oriented and always added her own special flair to every project she tackled. Morel had achieved so much and earned a lot of respect in her industry, but sadly, her life came to a sudden and tragic end due to an act of violence right after she wrapped up her work on a film set. On the evening of December 5, 2021, Morel Hernandez was just having a regular night, nothing out of the ordinary. After finishing her day on the film set, she was sitting down to enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant in Tijuana, Baja California. Little did she know, This was the moment when everything in her life was about to take a dramatic turn. Morel had just parked her blue Jeep Cherokee outside the restaurant and was getting ready to head out when she noticed two men walking towards her. In a surprising turn of events, two attackers grabbed her bag, and what started as a simple robbery quickly turned into a much more serious situation. Morel, not wanting to part with her things, tried to step in and safeguard her belongings. She stood in front of her car, probably trying to block the thieves from getting away with her stuff. After what she did, the people responsible jumped into her car and, without thinking twice, drove right over her, pulling her along the Tijuana-Rosarito highway. Witnesses were left in shock as they saw the brutal attack unfold. It was a terrifying moment when the vehicle sped away, leaving Morel trapped underneath. The robbers quickly ran away from the scene, leaving Morel in a tough spot, hurt and unable to help herself. Right after the incident happened, emergency services showed up pretty quickly, and the paramedics hurried over to help her out. Morel was taken to Clinic 20 of the Mexican Social Security Institute, IMSS. Unfortunately, despite the medical team's best efforts to help her, she passed away from her serious head injuries just a short time after getting to the hospital. Her passing was a heartbreaking conclusion to a lively life that had made a significant impact on many people in the entertainment world and even further out. Morel had a really interesting and respected career as a makeup artist, working in various areas of the field. She had been involved in many well-known projects, making a name for herself as a talented and in-demand expert in her field. She worked across many different genres, including thrilling series such as Narcos, Mexico, and the intense post-apocalyptic setting of Fear the Walking Dead. One of the standout things about her was how she could really bring characters to life using makeup and special effects. This talent played a huge role in making these productions even better. Fear the Walking Dead, 2016 to 2017, is a popular series where Morel contributed as an uncredited makeup artist for 28 episodes. Her talent in crafting realistic zombie makeup and gore effects was crucial to the show's success. Ingobernables, 2017, is a political drama where Morel played a crucial role as the key makeup artist for a total of 15 episodes. It's interesting to see how her work contributed to the overall look and feel of the show. The series featuring Kate Del Castillo became a major topic of conversation across Latin America, and Morel played a key role in creating the show's unique visual style. Narcos, Mexico, 2018, Morel had the opportunity to work as a makeup artist on this well-regarded series for 4 episodes. The show dives into how the Mexican drug trade grew, and it needed characters to change in a really believable way. Morel nailed those transformations with great care and talent. Morel was involved in the well-known Mexican series Tijuana, which came out in 2019. This show focused on the various socio-political challenges that the city of Tijuana was dealing with. Her work in this series really played a key role in bringing the characters to life in a way that feels genuine and true to life. Morel also took part in several other projects, such as Miss Bola in 2019, Seized in 2020, and Desperados, also in 2020. She brought her makeup expertise to the table, helping out with both the creative side and the technical details of these productions. She was also really skilled in special effects makeup, taking on projects that needed detailed and realistic transformations. Her amazing makeup skills and genuine love for what she does have earned her a lot of respect from her colleagues and others in the industry. She had a reputation for being meticulous, easily shifting between various styles, and always striving to improve every project she took on. Morel had a knack for making the ideas of directors, producers, and actors come alive, and people in the entertainment industry really appreciated her work. Morel wasn't just an amazing artist. She was also a cherished part of her family. Her uncle, Juan Manuel Hernandez Niebla, was part of the National Public Security Council in Tijuana, which made her life a bit more complicated. Having a family that was really engaged in public safety and law enforcement probably shaped her view on the various challenges her community faces. It's interesting to think about how those experiences influenced her understanding of the issues around her. Her unexpected and tragic passing wasn't just a huge loss for the film and television world. It also hit her family and loved ones really hard. Morell's passing really impacted everyone who was close to her, leaving a deep emotional mark on their hearts. Her family, friends, and colleagues were left trying to understand the pointless nature of her murder. Many found it really hard to accept the loss of someone so full of life and talent. Her family felt an overwhelming sense of grief, which was made even more difficult by the reality that her death was linked to a growing issue in Mexico: violent crime. In an area where police are having a tough time dealing with the rise of organized crime and everyday violence, the murder of Morell really highlighted the risks that regular people face, no matter what job they have or where they come from. The tragic murder of Morell Hernandez has really upset a lot of people, leading to widespread calls for justice from both the public and the media. Her heartbreaking death was just one of many events that brought attention to the increasing issue of violence in Tijuana and Baja California. These regions have struggled for a long time with high crime rates and insufficient law enforcement efforts. After her tragic murder, family, friends, and colleagues turned to social media to remember her, express their sorrow, and call for justice against those responsible. The call for justice wasn't only for Morell. It extended to all the many victims of violence in Mexico. In a place where impunity is common, it's all too frequent that those responsible for these acts go unpunished. Alongside the public's demand for justice, there have been fresh conversations about the wider topics of crime, security, and public safety in Mexico. The murder of Morell, an artist who had no known connections to crime, really highlights the risks that many people encounter every day. This is especially true in areas where criminal cartels have a significant presence. Tijuana, a city right next to the US border, is facing some serious security issues. This situation really shows how important it is to rethink law enforcement and focus more on keeping the people safe. Morell Hernandez may have left us too soon, but the mark she made on those around her and the projects she was part of continues to shine brightly. Her influence is still felt by everyone who had the privilege of knowing her. People really remember her work as a makeup artist for how artistic and precise it was. She played a big role in bringing to life some of the most unforgettable and lifelike characters we've seen on TV and in movies. Her unexpected passing highlights the tough situations that many people in Mexico deal with, but it also encourages us to pay more attention to public safety and to seek justice for those affected by violent crime. Morell Hernandez has a story that's all about talent, ambition, and bouncing back from challenges. It's a tale that keeps inspiring everyone who knows her and those who appreciate what she does. Her memory continues to shine, not only through the projects she was involved in, but also through the countless individuals whose lives she impacted with her creativity, warmth, and kindness. Morell's legacy really shows how art can rise above tough times. Her story is a strong reminder that we need to push for change when we encounter violence and crime.